What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be doing a completely unscripted, unrehearsed, first time team building and ladder testing of Mamoswine. Other than doing some minimal searching and just like research, looking over the tier to see if Mamoswine was really worth building around, I have not done any preparation. I do have faith in it though, so if we look at peak analytics here, we can see some of the top Pokemon in the tier. I mean, and if you notice, it actually has a surprisingly good matchup into a lot of these Pokemon and is able to hit a ton of them super effectively. I mean, being able to threaten to one-shot Landorus and Gliscor and also match up well into Raging Bolt and Kyurem, especially with Assault Vest, is actually really solid. So before I get into the video, I will be doing a video where I fix my viewers' teams soon. So I'm going to roast them and then I'm going to fix them. If you're interested in that, please leave the importable text to your team in the comments section. Don't do a link because YouTube will delete your comment. Now, one other thing I should mention is that the complete building process of testing a team, of going from an idea to like a really great team, takes so many hours. This is not going to be the complete thing, so I'm just going to be showing my initial build, first few changes, and a few test games. But most of the important events in team building happen in the first hour anyway, so you're probably not going to be missing much. And as always, if you guys enjoy the video, please remember to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Alright, let's build. So, the first thing about Mamoswine, I've kind of written down here, what does it do? What is it good against? And so one thing is Raging Bolt, right? It does, now it can't exactly switch in constantly, especially on like if it's a Specs Raging Bolt, even with Assault Vest, Draco Meteor can actually one-shot, but it can, obviously it is immune to Thunderclap, and it can threaten Raging Bolt with Earthquake, and even if it's Terra Fairy, that'll do a very good solid chunk there. I'm quite confident too. I believe Mamoswine survives. Should double check this. I believe it does survive a +1 Dragon Pulse. Let's take a look. Yeah, so it is very likely to. Something I might actually end up doing. I want to check here, because something I had earlier was we really only need to hit 250, and that's going to allow us to outspeed modest Raging Bolt. Now the reason I'd like to hit a little bit higher is so we can get that, the reason I want to hit a little bit higher is because a lot of other Pokemon for this Raging Bolt benchmark, like Landorus, like Gliscor, like to hit this kind of 250 mark. So if we can do higher, that would be ideal. But let's just see, if I did put 40, so that would take it, but that also takes it pretty far below. So this is one of those cases where we take so few EVs. Yeah, like all we need is 16 to make this a 0% chance to kill, and if we do 0, it's a 20% chance to kill. Like that's a case where that's worth the EVs. I think that's worth the EVs, and we'll just pop the rest right back into speed, and that gives us 256, which is more than most things are willing to go to creep. So okay, just nice quick set adjustment there. Kyurem, it's actually okay at switching in against Kyurem, so because of Thick Fat and being neutral against ice, it's basically an ice resist, so it's taking only like a little under a third from an Ice Beam and Freeze Dry, that type of thing. Iron Moth, because of Thick Fat, it's also kind of Assault Vest plus Thick Fat makes it not great against fire, but kind of act as neutral, so it can sort of deal with Iron Moth pretty well. And it can counter lead Darkrai. It does not take Dark Pulse into Focus Blast, but it can counter lead Darkrai, which is pretty cool too. So those are a few things it can do, along with just putting a lot of pressure on some of the top Pokemon in the tier. Things like, Gholdengo, Kingambit, Gliscor, Dragapult, Glowking, right? It puts a lot of pressure on a lot of those top Pokemon. Now, understanding what you're building around is very important, because here's what we're going to do next. Now we're going to ask ourselves, what can't Mamoswine do? What is it not good against? This is how top level players think. So here's how a less experienced builder would go about this. They'd say, okay, Mamoswine is weak to water, it's weak to grass. What if we put on something that can help with that? What if we put on a dragon type that resists water and grass? Let's look at dragon types, and maybe let's say that you end up deciding to go with Kyurem or whatever. Okay, or maybe like a Dragonite, something a little more defensive. This is not a good way to build. Now, for all I know, we might end up having a Dragonite, but that is not how you want to start this team. You don't want to think defensively when you build, because what would happen is, what if we continue this? Then we say, oh, well, we need a fairy resist. So then we go with, I don't know, let's find a fairy resist here. Say we add on a Heatran, and we say, oh, okay, well now, what are we weak to now? Well, we don't have a dark resist, so maybe we add on one of those. Let's add on a Kingambit, right? You can go on like this, and then you'll reach the end and realize you didn't really ever consider offensive synergy. And it's a lot harder to have a team that works together well offensively than one that works together defensively. And the reason for that is just because when you start a building process, a breaking core is a much more difficult thing to put together. A sequence of Pokemon that can work together to break almost anything is something that takes a lot of precise and intentional building, whereas just covering defensive holes is something a lot of Pokemon can do. So we're going to think offensively first, and the way we're going to do that is by asking ourselves, what can Mamoswine not break? And here's what it can't break. It cannot break, let's look through the tier. It cannot break all of Alomomola. It cannot break Corviknight unless you get a ridiculous amount of Iso Crash flinches, which we're not going to rely on. Similarly, if it can't break Corv, it can't break Skarm. It cannot break Dondozo, obviously. It can't break Gliscor post-Terra, which is not a thing I would normally mention. You normally just say, because if your opponent Terras, that's kind of a victory. And in the context of Mamoswine, there are really no defensive walls in the tier that are going to Terra in the position where they're better against it. Nothing resists both of Mamoswine's stabs. So I'm not worried about Terra in general, but because of that Toxic Orb healing Gliscor has, that is something we need to consider, especially when building with an Ice type. Something I see a lot of people do is they'll have one Ice type and they're like, okay, I can break a Gliscor, and then the Gliscor Terras and their entire team loses and just gets Toxic stalled. And that's not what we want to see happen. So we're going to consider that as well. So let's look at this list of what Mamoswine can't do. Olo, Corv, Skarm, Dozo, post-Terra Gliscor. Something that jumps out at me about this list is that a lot of these Pokemon are weak to Electric. Olo, Corv, Skarm, Dozo, those are all weak to Electric. And post-Terra Gliscor, in particular, if you can force your opponent's Gliscor to Terrastalize, that means they probably just lost their ground type, since typically Gliscor is going to be the only ground on the team, although it's sometimes paired with Tinglu. I'm thinking a Volt Switcher would be ideal here. And I think we only have one of those in OU, but let's see. Okay, so technically Treads, but let's get real here. Let's put on a Raging Bolt. There are a few sets. I have not been a fan of specs in the past, but I'm starting to come around just because of how incredibly powerful Draco Meteor is. So I do think, let's give it a try here. Let's give it a try. The other great thing is that Mamoswine, even though it's not going to break Corviknight, with things like Knock Off and Icicle Crash, it can put Corv in a position where you force a Roost, at least. And, while that Corviknight's roosting, guess who's going to come in and have a field day, right? Okay, so let's put this in. Thunderbolt and Thunderclap. Thank God there are no ground and fairy types. Tough call. I think I'm gonna. We can decide Terra types at the end, but just for your own edification, Terra Dragon Draco Meteor from this guy is hilarious. But anyway, we'll keep the set not filled in for now. But this is kind of this is what I'm thinking is a good initial core. Now here's also the struggle with Mamoswine, and something we need to consider with the rest of the team. Defensively, you cannot count on this to do anything. He does a few things. In the game, it will switch in once or twice to a Raging Bolt or once or twice to a Kyurem, but you cannot rely on this Mamoswine to do anything defensively, and that's why it's so rare to see. Like, you look at this list of Pokemon, you're like, wow, Mamoswine looks broken, why aren't people using it? It's because all of these top Pokemon, on top of often doing well offensively, actually have more effective defensive roles as well, like Kingambit here. Mr. Big 36% usage. That's not because it's sweeping every game. That's because it resists a lot of stuff and stops a lot of sweepers with Sucker Punch. And that's, I'd say, over half of Kingambit's usage is coming from its defensive utility. You take away Kingambit's defensive utility and it becomes a frail sweeper, say with like the same resources it has, it would see almost no usage at all. And that's kind of the issue with this guy. Very little defensive utility. And unfortunately, although it really looks good offensively, we've just added a Raging Bolt, which cannot also, you really cannot rely on this to do anything defensively either, and because it specs Thunderclap, you can't even really rely on it to stop sweepers, since it'll lock itself in to a priority move that the opponent can set up on. So that what that means is the next 4 Pokemon we add need to have some serious utility, and can't just be floating around and putting on more wall breaking power. We're pretty set on wall breaking power at this point. That's the good thing. Now, something that jumps out at me here. Now, this is the most awkward stage in team building, because we're at this point where we've filled our wish list. I know we can't fit any more of things we really, really want, and yet we're not so late in the process that we can just start kind of throwing stuff on. Or at least that'll be obvious what we need. Because when you have 4 or 5 Pokemon, you know what you're struggling against, and often there are only a few things that could realistically fill those last few spots. But this is always a bit of a weird step. One thing I will say I really like with both of these Pokemon is Galarian Slowking. So not only do I think it's the best Pokemon in the tier, which I explained in a previous video, but it works well with both of these. One, because some of these Pokemon we talked about earlier, right, Dondozo, even Corv and Skarm don't like taking a Future Sight. This can help Mamoswine break, which is really nice to have. It can help both of these guys get in, and they both kind of struggle to that. Not so much Mamoswine, but in particular, Raging Bolt does not have the best time coming in. Slowking really helps with that. Also provides a Fairy Resist, which we definitely need, and it also scouts Kyurem. Like, if you switch this in, it might die to a Draco. It probably doesn't, but it has a very small chance to die to Draco Meteor, and even if it doesn't kill, it'll take it to the range where Ice Beam won't do anything. So this kind of gives us, together, between Slowking and Mamoswine, I feel like we actually have a real core that stops Kyurem, as long as we add on something that's immune to Earth Power later. And we'll probably just go with the Toxic Chilly Future Sight Sludge Bomb set. We can see later. Another reason I really like Toxic here is because you can get that nice Toxic Thunderclap trap, where if you poison a sweeper, you can spam Thunderclap and they either attack you or they just die to poison as they don't attack you, which is obviously a pretty good situation. Also gives us a little bit of a Volt Chilly core. Having a bunch of pivoting moves is always a really nice thing to have. Alright, let's take a look. So we're going to need a Stealth Rocker at some point. This team definitely wants Stealth Rock. Mamoswine, I mean, if you think about the Pokemon that are going to be coming in, Mamoswine really, really, really wants Stealth Rock. So what rock setter fits well is the question. I mean, it's a bit of a tough call. As I said, in a lot of other scripted team building videos, like, you'll just see me put something on here. Normally what this looks like is actually me just kind of staring at the screen and going for 5 minutes and kind of weighing my options. And because this is, as some of you requested, like just a full unscripted team building where I explain my thought process, I might just be staring at the screen for 5 minutes right now. But let me try to kind of talk my way through what's going through my head. So we need something that this team doesn't already have that's going to provide good utility and set these Stealth Rock up. The other thing I can tell is that our main 2 breaking Pokemon are both taking full damage from Stealth Rock and Spikes. So we're probably going to need removal, and that pretty much means a Great Tusk is the unfortunate thing. So I excuse my occasional pauses to grab tissues in my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment. But yeah, Rapid Spin, so we're probably going to need a Great Tusk, if I'm being real here, which feels, though, really annoying to run with Mamoswine. So I can't help but wonder if we can't maybe take this team in a more offensive direction and kind of go with Cinderace, as that also gives us kind of a U-turn chilly Volt Switch core. The lack of removal does bother me, but if the next 2 Pokemon are good against hazards and we keep this team offensive enough that games will be quick, I feel like maybe that could be okay. Generally, with team building, Cinderace is kind of temporary removal, right? It's not the kind of thing you can count on in a longer game. But if you're confident that your team can end games quick enough that you're not going to have to court change, give your opponent to set hazards, like a bunch of hazards up again, and then continue to harass you, then you're all set. So as long as we end this game, and I feel like, yes, we can take on a stall team and we can beat it. And I would honestly say, as long as we end up getting a good Stealth Rock setter, this core already is looking pretty solid for that purpose. Like Mamo, Future Sight, Specs, Raging Bolt, that's really threatening. Okay, so let's see here. Still need a Stealth Rock setter. We've covered removal, but I don't want to be in a situation where our opponent is just like, hey, what if I don't set hazards? And then we're like, oh crap. Because Mamoswine really wants hazards. A lot of the things that it threatens, and more importantly, the things that it kind of struggles against, don't like hazards. So we need Stealth Rock. I'm feeling like a steal would be ideal here. Well, Garganackle would be kind of nice. It does give us a ghost resist. People often talk about wanting a steal when team building. It's not a strict requirement, but I almost never see a team that doesn't have a steal type that I consider to be a good team. So I think it's definitely worth taking seriously that recommendation to add a steal type. At the same time, though, the only one I really see fitting here is Heatran. And I feel like we kind of have covered a lot of what Heatran offers. I think that adds a bit too much defensive overlap. We already have a Fairy Resist, we already have an Ice Resist. Yeah, the thing about Heatran, the thing about adding anything that has too much defensive overlap is, if you have too many answers for certain things, you're probably lacking elsewhere. Because Generation 9 is not a generation where you can just stack a bunch of things that you want. It is a cutthroat team, very, very difficult generation to build in, where if you don't make the most of every single slot, you are going to be very sad with what ends up happening to you on the ladder. It could be that this starting core we made is just not supportable. Could branch out to a different version. One thing that I'm thinking of, well, we could start with a core of Mamoswine plus Heatran. That would be pretty nice. That would give us a lot of what we want, and Heatran does fit pretty well. The other thing we could do even is run some kind of Terra Blast that would kill all of Momola, which would be really nice. Like a Terra Blast Grass Heatran could be pretty nice paired with Mamoswine. So we could do that, but that I'll write that one down. So that's another thing. When I team build, if I get another idea, different approach, I'm always making different versions of teams. Sometimes I'll end up with 10 or 12 different versions. Whoops, not Mamoswine. Got the original Tusk on the brain. Anyway, though, let's look at this one. So, okay, let's just, we've got few enough Pokemon that we can kind of simulate what happens if we add them. So let's say we add on, I hate the look of like ground against our team. It's like rough, man. Okay, what if we added a Skarmory? I don't love it here. It feels way too passive for the team we've made, so we're not going to put that on. The thing is, like, look at Skarmory here. We do not have the walls needed to support something like this. I feel like Landorus is this is also a classic offense core you see a lot of the time. Slowking Landorus, and the reason is for this, right? Landorus can taunt, so you avoid the hazards on both sides situation. And in general, the fact that all these three have pivoting moves, this is a very common, and for good reason, it's a very effective offense core. And often in the last slot, you will see King Gambit. Also for good. Like, these four have been on so many teams in Gen 9. So that's one option. Let's think. Does this thrill me? This team right here. I don't like speed situation. I'd rather have at least one thing on the team kind of faster. But we do have a lot of strong priority. The Dragapult matchup is not great either. Zamazenta matchup is not great. As much as I'd like to run Specs Raging Bolt with Mamoswine, there may be a way to make it happen. I don't think this is it. Potentially, what we could do is kind of compress these two Pokemon. Because I notice Slowking on this team does a lot of things, and Heatran, we can kind of almost combine those into Heatran. So that's an option. And I still do well, and we don't need then Landorus as much, because this could be our Stealth Rock setter, probably just like a Taunt EP set. Because as I said, well, this doesn't then. Yeah, we could go this route, and we have our Landorus here. We still do need a Ghost Resist. Darkrai. I've been liking Scarf Darkrai a lot lately. That's something that could outspeed Pult. With a team like this, I don't really want to have nothing be able to outpace Dragapult. And Scarf, this thing especially, we're going to run Trick for sure, can just deal with so much BS, so many random sweepers, that it's a very good Pokemon to have around. And for the last slot, let's see what we're losing to. So I want a Water Resist that's not Raging Bolt, ideally. I like the Ogerpon Wellspring matchup is currently absolutely horrifying. Tusk is looking very scary to face. Walking Wake is horrifying as well. Normally I'd want to add a Rillaboom here, but I'm not running high horsepower Mamoswine. I really don't want to do that. Getting the weakened attack and the chance to miss is just like... No, if it was 100 accuracy, 95 base power, I'd consider it, but just losing out on both of those categories is a huge pain, and I don't think Rillaboom really helps too much with what we want to do here. Maybe a Dragon. Like, I could kind of see Dragapult fitting here, but the problem is both Dragapult and Raging Bolt are going to get hit with Play Rough by an Ogerpon Wellspring that predicts correctly, and Mamoswine lets in Ogerpon Wellspring fairly easily. Like, it doesn't like taking an Icicle Crash, but it can always come in at least once. So let's not let that happen to us. Let's take a look at some dragon types. Could also be maybe a Corviknight being added here. Yeah, none of these are really thrilling me. Oh, I forgot to put in OU. That would help. Maybe Rillaboom high horsepower is the play, but I'm just going to avoid. I do not want to run high horsepower. Okay, well here's one thing we could do. It's not ideal against Wellspring, but we could go Dragapult here. I wonder if there's maybe do we need Scarf on Darkrai if we have a Dragapult? Could add an Aatrot hazard stack a little bit, you know. This team is not thrilling me. Feels like we get, well, yeah, I mean, no, the Walking Wake matchup, if we face a Sun team, it's like seriously bad news. Nonetheless, we do have the specs on this guy. We will have the Terra grab. We're definitely gonna go. Well, no, actually, we do need Heatran here for. No, well, we could go Terra Grass here for the Mamo. Oops, sorry. Terra Blast, Taunt, and then go Stealth Rock on Heatran. We might end up even going Boots, Raging Bolt. The hazard situation, I hate it very much. So we look like really weak to Stealth Rock on this team. And, you know, God forbid if spikes go up. Let's try the Heatran plus Mamoswine version. Let's try this. Because the other thing Heatran can do is chip Olomomola. Or let's not go Stealth Rock on this. I wonder, because these Pokemon both don't like entry hazards. What if we went with this Lando Cinderace Glow King Core here? Last Pokemon we need to be a dark. We could go Scarf Dark right here. That could work. And this could run Stealth Rock Taunt. That would enable this to run Terra Blast Grass, which is really good because that can take out Olomomola. Also just a really great stall breaker, so it kind of helps us in that capacity as well. So once I finish a team, I always kind of look through the tier list and just see, okay, quick check, do I get totally smoked by anything? I really don't love the Great Tusk situation, but I think if we run Wisp on Ace, I'd say it's forgivable. We'll see in testing if it proves to be more of a problem than we anticipate. So I'd say Great Tusk is not awesome, but it's not the end of the world. Let's see what else. Anything we lose to here. Opposing Darkrai is not fun at all. Especially since this is all we have for priority. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. It's looking pretty rough against Darkrai. We'll consider that. If that's the only thing, maybe we give it a shot anyway, but let's see what else. Dragapult. Yeah, we can handle that. Yep, yeah, pretty good against those. Not so worried. Actually, Dragonite. A well-played Dragonite. We have a lot of things that can block its setup, and we do have the option of Terra Ghost on Darkrai. Terra Ghost and Trick, in particular, is the Dragonite killer I have in mind. And we have Wisp on this, we have Mamoswine, we have Toxic on this guy. So I'd say the Dragonite matchup is potentially manageable, but we'll once again, we can see during testing. Gouging Fire we're pretty good against. Ival we're pretty good against. Kyurem we're good against. Raging Bolt, yep, check on that. Rillaboom. Okay. Yeah, so I'd say this team is actually looking pretty good. My main concern is going to be opposing Darkrai, but I'd say, especially with Assault Vest on Mamoswine, we have some pretty decent options for that. Also, as for why I chose Fairy on this, one is for the fighting and Dark Resist, turns this thing into a pretty decent switch into Darkrai, but also with Thick Fat plus Terra Fairy, this thing can suddenly just turn into a Gouging Fire counter, which is pretty funny to have. Let's go Terra Grass on this. I do think I want to run... I feel like I want to run a pretty heavily invested Heatran here. A heavily attack invested. I'm thinking we go modest max. Yeah, we'll go with female here. I make all the Pokemon female to avoid Cute Charm. This way they just know we're not running like Flame Charge or something. Yeah, it does get... Flame Charge Heatran, by the way, is hilarious. It can really mess some people up. Rocky Helmet, best item on this guy. Taunt, EP, U-turn. Might swap this out for a Gliscor since they do kind of the same thing, but at the moment I'm thinking Landorus is probably the way to go about this. Go 248 HP. I'm gonna go Timid Max here. And we'll put the rest in Special Attack, why not? Terra Dragon 4, and I just forgot about Water Resist completely, because I just realized Ogerpon smokes us. So we're going to move on again and try a different version. This is the glory of team building, folks. You're witnessing it right here. Realizing you lose to Ogerpon Wellspring. So much for my check through the tier. I guess I just missed that one. But yeah, Wellspring ends a lot of team building projects. If ever a suspect test happens, definitely remove that fella. Okay, though. Let's see. So let's look once again. Alomomola, Corviknight, Skarmory, Dondozo, Gliscor. I do think the Heatran can work. I just don't think we went about it the right way. As much as I love slapping Glowking on stuff, let's try to avoid that this time. And maybe we don't go full in on the Landorus either. Let's see if we can get some actual removal, because these guys do like a Great Tusk. Although I wonder if Mamoswine and Tusk just have too much that's similar about them. I mean, they both are kind of doing that ice ground thing. Mamoswine obviously does it with more attack and priority, which, well, not actually more attack, Tiffany has one less, but stronger. Actually having Ice Stab is very nice. But I think these two are just too similar to run on the same team. So let's go with Cinderace again. SR Pokemon. I really would like to avoid, having to run a Rillaboom. I do not want to go high. Whenever you start running high horsepower, it just makes a lot of calcs a little bit worse. Then you miss sometimes, and it's like Mamoswine is it doesn't need calcs to get a little bit worse. It needs calcs to get a little bit better. So if we go Cinderace for hazard control, and let's just try to see if we can find an Ogerpon switch in. I mean, there kind of aren't any, is sort of the problem. There is Corviknight sort of as an option. Could go Corviknight, like a Brave Bird set. Could work here. It's a solid pivot, works well with Mamoswine. Mamo likes getting in. Provides a solid ground immunity for the Pokemon that are here on the team. But also then at the same kind of side of the situation here, Corviknight +2 Terra Water Ivy Cudgel, and your Corviknight is gone. So is that really an Ogerpon answer at all? Let's see if we were to add on Dragapult as our speed control, because this thing is switching pretty well in Wisp. Could go Lando Gambit. Let's try that. Let's try that out here. Let's see how that looks in the team builder. Olo, Blissey, okay. Enamorous is rough. I would say it's manageably rough, but it's not fun that we kind of have to make a read every time. Yeah, we handled that. Ooh, Iron Valiant. It's looking pretty tough. Iron Valiant is looking pretty tough. Not really sure if there's anything we can particularly do about. This is the struggle of Mamoswine. You're starting to probably see why people don't run it that often. This thing is basically, defensively speaking, like trying to cover the tier with 5 Pokemon, because this is not helping at all. I mean, you look at, like, it's got the HP, but look at these defenses, no recovery, ice type. This is not doing anything defensively for the team. And that is a struggle. Wonder here if there's something we could move out for Heatran that help with Iron Valiant, because I feel like now that we've added, we can kind of have Cinderace as a fake Fairy Resist. So if we have something that can help with Iron Valiant, maybe another Fairy Resist. Let's look at some other Steel types. Maybe we'll look at some Poison types next. Goldengo kind of could work. I could see that. I could see that working. Let's take a look at some Poison types. I feel like none of these really fit the bill of what we're trying to do here. And Goldengo's not really answering Iron Valiant, if we're being real. But we do deny, actually, I think I might be overestimating how bad we're doing against them. I feel like Heatran plus Landorus is going to cover most sets, and we have Terra options that can handle it as well. So I think I might be overestimating how bad that looks. This time we have a much better core for Wellspring, so I'm not as worried about that. Primarina, though, is looking horrifying. Like, what do we do against a Primarina here? Yeah, so we're going to need to fix that. Almost feels like a Moongus would work well here, but it lost Spore, so we're not going to be running that guy anytime soon. Actually, you know what? We could do this. Now, once again, this core, I said, it pops up everywhere. Slowking, Cinderace, Lando, Gambit. These 4. This might be the move here. I also like how the Chilly Reception gives Mamo a defense boost. That's pretty cool. Do we really lose anything by doing that here? Let's take another look through the tier. I think this actually kind of covers the issues we were having, and we do end up getting that Glow King Mamo core. I'd say if we go Boots, Hex, Dragapult, we're acceptable on hazards, and that leaves us with 2 things. Well, I think the combination of Future Sight plus Mamo, Taunt Lando, Knockoff, Hex Dragapult against a stall team. I think we can break a stall team, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get that opportunity to test on the ladder. Won't be a fun exchange, but I think we can probably do it. Yeah. This also gives us another tool against Gliscor, which is nice with the Hex there. Landorus can also taunt and bully it if it decides to Terra. As I said, you got to consider Gliscor using Terastallization. If you don't, you will regret that decision. It's a very common Terra user. Primarina we deal with a lot better now. Ogerpon, yep. Okay, yeah. Alright, so this actually works. So now that we're done with this, let's fill in sets. So I remember what we did on Mamoswine here with female Terra Fairy. Why female? You don't want to get cute charmed. EQ, Knock, Crash, Shard. And we are going to go Adamant. We're going to run 16 special defense. and rest in speed here. Cool, this guy, let's go with the standard set. Toxic, Sludge, Chili, come on, Chili Reception, Water. Water on this is just very good, deals with rain and sun teams so well, there's very little reason to run anything else. Now the question here, do we want to go Wisp or do we want to go Sucker Punch? Normally I'm a Wisp guy. The question is, we do only have this one. Well, actually no, we've got King Gambit, what am I saying? We've got more than that one priority. So, okay, in this case, yes, I do think I want to still run a Wisp. I will go Pyro Ball, and of course, Chord Change. And we're definitely going to go with the max speed, max attack, Libero. And this guy, let's go with the Darts, U-Turn, Hex set. I'd like to go on the more special attack side. And Terra Ghost to boost that Hex power, especially against Gliscor. So as I said, that is definitely a concern here. Helmet Lando, we'll go the same set as before. Dragon for the additional, well, do we go Dragon or Grass? I think Dragon is just generally better defensively against a lot of other things in the tier. So I'm going to say we go Dragon. Now let's U-Turn, EP, Taunt, SR. Nothing crazy here. And I want to go with Timid, and we'll go 248-8. Minus attack, sounds good. Alright, this guy. Once again, this is just a set I generally like to use. We can adjust later. A lot of people stress out so much about Terra types when they're building. It's like, you don't really need to. It's not a big deal. If your Terra type's a little bit off, you can fix it later. And I like to go 16 just for random creeps on other slow Gambit, but I do like to have bulky King Gambit in general. Okay, so there's our team. I think we're pretty much all good to go. So I've got this account currently to around 1700s. So okay, let's get this to a normal spread here. Oh, cool. They got this little thing. Oh my. What is this? Don't know why it's showing up here. I'm just gonna... Anyway. Oh, okay, it's appearing here now. Well, actually, that's probably good. You guys can see it. I know sometimes in my other ones I've had it where it has not been able to appear. But let me just close this out for a moment. Okay, I did say HF. Okay, cool. So the the Mamo lead feels so good here that I feel like he's going to lead from Arena. So I'm going to lead Slowking. Like, I feel like the Mamo lead, and it's first on my team too, so I'm thinking he's going to go for that lead. And also Slowking just matches up pretty well against his leads in general. So yeah, let's go with Slowking here. Okay. So he just led with Darkrai, which is not ideal, but that's fine. I think... Let's just Chili Reception and get out of here. Okay, so that is... Okay, fortunately we don't get flinched. Always good news, always good news. And we can go Cinderace here, and I believe Cinderace threatens... Not quite a one-shot, but we can go into Cinderace, U-turn, and if the Darkrai decides to stay and he can't kill with anything, we'll do enough with U-turn that Dragapult can then kill with a U-turn. So we can do a double pivot. If you can get yourself in a situation where you can kill a Pokemon with a pivoting move, you almost always want to take it, because if they leave it in to die, you kill it, and if they switch out, you U-turn, you pivot out, and then get yourself in another advantageous situation. Okay, he's going for it. Please, no flinch. Okay, thank God. So we got pretty lucky there, not getting flinched twice. This better not be Scarf. Nobody leads with a Scarf Darkrai, right? Maybe Mamo Ice Shard is better. But surely no. A Scarf Darkrai on a team like this would be pretty crazy. Guy's got probably a booster speed Moth, priority extreme speed. I would be pretty surprised on a build like this if it were Scarf. But Mamoswine is looking good in this game 1. I'd say this is a good showing for what it can do. Okay, and we do get the U-turn there, which is pretty great. Now, do I go Mamo right here to kind of just force in the Prim so I can go into Slowking? Because when you get a kill, like at this point, he's going to get the switch advantage. So what I want to ask myself is, how do I put myself in a position where what I want to happen happens? As in, he goes into the thing that's easiest for me to deal with. I would like him to go into... maybe not. Let's go Cinderace here. I think that matches up pretty well against everything, and if he does go into Primarina, there we can actually U-turn into Slowking instead of just switching into it, which is nice because that lets us see if he's like leftovers or, you know, what the situation is there. This is okay with me. I'm going to go hard into Mamoswine. And the Stealth Rock goes up. Okay, cool. So I think I have to Earthquake here. This feels like such an obvious Primarina, and I was correct, and we're going to do a good bit, but just not quite enough. Now the question is, do I just stay in and do it anyway? I mean, this is going to be doing a pretty hefty chunk, but also getting this Primarina out of the way would be really, really nice, because my team kind of hates it in general. The other option is I could Terra Fairy here, but that feels like not that good of a call. The other thing to consider is if I do let my Mamoswine go down here, it's not going to really... because it needs health to deal with all these things. Otherwise, it just gets outsped, killed, prioritied on. So my inclination would be, no, don't sack the Mamo here. Or don't let the Mamo take a big water move. So let's go into Slowking. Interesting. I didn't see that coming here, but fortunately, the special move set is much more common these days, so I actually feel pretty safe here clicking Chilly Reception, yeah, because the Earth Power wouldn't have done much there, and Earthquake is rare. So we're going to Chilly. Interesting. How is Mamoswine doing? It's got a balloon set, it's not that. Okay, leftovers, let's go with that. Okay. So, against 0 attack, it has a chance to kill, but he's not killing with. That's still not great. Let's go Landorus here. Because what I can then do is U-turn on his Landorus, beautiful, and now I can Icicle Crash, and this puts me in a position where if the Primarina comes in, I kill with Icicle Crash into Earthquake. Yep. Because last time I did, this thing takes over the battle chat. It's like, okay. Last time I did 46. Okay, so it might be a roll, but that feels low. Like, this is how... that's got to be a maximum defense Primarina. Oh my gosh. That's got to be, like, nearly absolute max. Or straight up absolute max. But even with that, even if we go bold on this, that's a favorable roll for me. So I definitely take it. And we do get the kill. Okay, cool. So I'm pretty happy with that maneuver we pulled on the Kingambit. I think that was a good move. And the Mamo is putting in work. It's gotten past the Prim. What's Icicle Crash? Okay, so he does outspeed. Most Landorus aren't this fast, but I guess he is one that is that fast. So, not great, but not the end of the world. I still want to just go into my own Landorus here once again. I definitely think that's the play. Now we definitely outspeed him here, which is not good. We don't want the slow U-turn at all. I can go into my Slowking here, since I feel like hopefully he doesn't just U-turn. Okay, he does. That was a good play on his part, but I was going to be in a losing spot there anyway. At least this time I get some regen health from it. So let's go into Landorus again. It's a little obvious, but because it's obvious, it might work. Let's see. Cool, it did. Now, here, I'm going to go Cinderace, because the odds that he Kowtow Cleaves here are incredibly low, in my opinion. Yeah, cool. So now what I want to do is actually Will-O-Wisp. Cool. Okay, that worked pretty well. And now I think I want a court change. I think it's the time. I don't think Cinderace is going to be vital for the remainder of this game. Ooh, and we see a very nice little detail there with him being actually physical. So he could have killed my Slowking earlier. Glad he didn't. Let's just Pyro Ball for damage. It's going to actually be pretty solid damage, in fact. And you know what I think I can do? I think I can sack Landorus based on that damage. Because this is predicting that I should be doing nothing. So I'm guessing this Landorus actually has 0 HP, 0 defense, and is not bold. Let's call it adamant or whatever. Now we're seeing the damage that I believe I actually did, which was 26, yeah. So this has maybe a little bit of HP. Maybe it's a max HP, max speed set. Okay, so that seems more like what we're dealing with. So if my Cinderace was a fire type again, and did not have the -1, I think I would actually kill this Landorus. So I'm going to sack my Landorus, go into Cinderace here, and yeah, we should be killing here. So we got hazards up, and all we lost was one very sick Landorus to do it. That's a pretty good situation. Now, if the Iron Moth comes in, things are going to get a little bit scary. If the Fiery Dance gets a boost... So yeah, okay, this is going to come down to a few things here. Well, do I... Yeah, so I do think I risk the Fiery Dance. If he doesn't get a boost, I can go Mamo here. So let's hope for no boost on the Fiery Dance. Okay, boost, he got the boost. So I can go Dragapult here and Darts. I could also go Gambit, Terrafire. I don't like that as much. Let's go Pult Darts. Hopefully no Terra Fairy. They're almost all Terra Ground these days, so I'm not too concerned about that possibility. And then after this we can maybe switch in Slowking. Maybe should have gone to Slowking first, but I think it'll be fine either way. The other thing is I do still have the Terra intact, which is pretty cool. He still does as well, but I don't think Terra Blast ground kills here. Yeah, it doesn't. Cool. So... Okay, yeah, he's just gonna Sledge Wave, which is great for me. I don't know why you wouldn't Fiery Dance there. That's not great for me, though, because I don't think that puts it into range of ice. Oh, it does? No, because it doesn't count. He's the speed boosting set, which means he's got 132 defense EVs. So yeah, we're not killing. Whoops, didn't want to copy that. Yeah, we're not killing. But we can go Slowking here. Actually, though, the fact that he did that... No, but we don't want to have this Dragapult die, because this thing can Wisp the D-Knight, which is huge. So I'm not gonna risk that. And sure enough, he did go for killing the Dragapult there, which is actually great news for us, because now this can definitely, like, Mamoswine can 100% kill with Ice Shard. Let's just Chilly Reception in case this guy decides to spare our life for some reason. Yeah, probably not. Okay, Mamo time. We're gonna Ice Shard, and the Kingambit will come in, and the play against that is definitely going to be to Terra Fairy, 100%. Terra Fairy and Earthquake. Because this is no longer a threat, really. Like, even if it switches out, we don't really care. We can priority kill it with anything. So yeah, he makes sense that he decided to sack it there. That's what I would have done in his spot. Yeah, And we 100%, even with Terra Fairy, even a critical hit sucker, I don't think we'll kill here. And then, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're looking very good for the win. We're looking very good, because we Ice Shard the D9 when it comes in. Okay, yeah, and he knew there was no chance of him winning unless he was like Jolly Dragonite, and even then it would have been rough with the Kingambit. So, GG, are there any sets after that game I really want to change or jump out at me as like, oh, we got to fix that? Not really, so let's just go for another one. I'd say that showcased Mamoswine pretty well. Team kind of did what it was supposed to do. One thing that does worry me a little bit is I'm not sure if we have enough immediate power on this team. Like, the fact that the hardest thing we had to hit that Primarina with was Mamoswine is not great. But we do have a few hard hitters. I mean, Cinderace is pretty strong, Mamo's pretty strong. Gambit, kind of, later in the game at least. I don't know. We'll see if it's enough. I think at the moment, I would say it's enough. But we will see. Okay. So let's see here. I love Mamo in this matchup. Like, he has a Corviknight, true, but we've got a lot of ways to bully Corviknight, so I think I'm not really too worried about it. As for leads, I really like Cinderace here. Yeah, so first reason I like Cinderace is because that's Ogerpon is everywhere. But secondly, we're in a spot now where we can... I think I actually want to... Well... U-turn is going to do a ton of damage. I think we just U-turn here. Okay, and the Corviknight comes in, so that's fine. Because we're now in a spot where we can Wisp pretty freely. I'm feeling good about just Wisping here. The Goldango play would be crazy, but we have got a Kingambit. Okay, and we Wisp the Corviknight. That is a huge deal, because that's the counter to Mamoswine. Just got Will-O-Wisped. And if you look at the damage... Icicle Crash is doing, you factor in flinch chances and burns, that's really good. And we're going to Wisp this too. That's the other Mamoswine counter. I don't know what, like, yeah, you knocked me off, but at what cost, man? Oh my gosh. I'm very happy with that. I'm very, very happy with that. Okay, so I'm just going to go into Landorus here. I don't know what he's going to knock off again, which is fine. You're going to take a crazy amount of damage. And, let's see, Ivy Cudgel is doing like 40 here. I do think I go Dragapult. Yeah, I just didn't want to take that damage for nothing. We can Hex pretty easily here. If he goes into Tinglu, Wisp will actually allow us to live in Earthquake. So I feel pretty okay about the Hex. It's fine, now let's Wisp. This guy is so keen on letting his entire team get into Mamoswine kill range for some reason. And I am not complaining. Very nice. Alright, let's U-turn. I think I want to go here into... Actually, I kind of want to go into Cinderace, because it's got that really strong U-turn that can get some good damage. He's going to U-turn... I mean, he's going to, sorry, Whirlwind. Let's just Iron Head. No, we really don't want this getting chipped, do we? I'm going to go into Cinderace again, and if he Whirlwinds again, then we'll just start going for attacks. But okay, this is very cool for me. I'm just going to Pyro Ball here. He doesn't really have a great Pyro Ball answer on his team. Okay, he's going to go into Tinglu. U-turn here will not kill, but it will come pretty close. And in case of the Ruination here, I think I want to go into Slowking, because that'll take pretty much anything pretty well. We can Chilly Reception this turn. And we also don't need... Well, okay, actually... I think this turn I want to go into Landorus, because just in case... Well, no, actually, I realize we're not too worried about Raging Bolt, because we have the Mamoswine, so we can Chilly Reception here. And I'm thinking here I want to go Cinderace. I'm going to U-turn, then I'm going to go into Glowking, so we can get that regen health all the way back up. And that's also dead, which means if we Court Change, those hazards are now ours. Which is really good news. So, like, this doesn't kill with anything. It's gonna knock off, I guess. But I'm pretty sure I just... Yeah. No, I'm not too worried about this. So I eat the knockoff here. I go into Cinderace. I court change. I don't die to anything because I turn into a normal type. Then I U-turn out with field advantages stacked in my favor. Like, really stacked in my favor. Yeah, like, this is not going to do that much. Like, it's still an Ogerpon, so it did kind of some damage, but... Yeah, I'm just going to U-turn here, and now we have hazards. Like, he's got a Corviknight, but... with the way he's playing it, he won't have a Corviknight much longer. And at least Rocks, we won't have to worry about that from our side, so it doesn't really matter that we got the boots knocked off. And Hex here is going to maybe not kill, but come pretty close. And the Corv will die this next turn. I think I'll take it out with the darts, just in case the Bolts comes in. We've got healthy Landorus, which can deal with the Raging Bolt pretty well. Love that we're going to get rid of the Balloon here, too. I feel pretty comfortable bringing Gambit in. This is kind of what it's here for. Even if we get Focus Blasted, we have more options. Like, we can go into Landorus and just click Earth Power here. Or Cinderace and Pyro Ball. Okay. So based on that Kowtow Cleave, this is a Raging Bolt with some bulk, which tells me that we can just go Mamo. So I'm just going to go Mamo. Oh cool, and he decided to Thunderbolt, which is great. So we can very freely just go for an Earthquake here. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, okay, we Earthquake. This game went incredibly well. I mean, Mamo didn't really do a whole lot, but I feel like if our opponent had played in a more threatening way, Mamo definitely would have been good. So that's another point in favor of the Swine. Kowtow again here. As I said, I'm going to go Mamo once again, because I want to preserve the Landorus's health for dealing with the Iron Boulder. He's going to Thunderclap again. Or, I mean, use an electric move again. It's just Earthquake. Cool. Let's go Gambit again. I don't, okay. We're going to... I mean, I guess in case... Well, no, there's really nothing I should be afraid of here. Oh, like, Dazzling Gleam... You Focus Blast? What if he did Focus Blast here? Let's see. So if I Terra Fire the Focus Blast... Okay, so probably I do use my Terra Fire here. It seems like it'll be the best time to do so. Okay, oh my gosh. I got super baited. And also haxed, because the Shadow Ball should not have killed, but, you know, that happens. Let's go Cinderace here and Pyro Ball. This should do a hefty chunk. Because this is calcing against a max defense Goldengo. Pretty sure this is a near zero defense Goldengo. So okay, let's run a calc based on that damage. So let's say this is modest. I don't think this is running defense. So this is looking like a max HP variant. So it looks like Mamo should be able to Earthquake here and finish this thing off. If I've calced this correctly. Which it looks like the answer is no, I have not. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so I got a plan here. Let's go into Slowking, because this can threaten the Sludge Bomb. We go into this guy, and now we live. Now we do it again. It's got very dicey. I love the poison. Love that. Landorus definitely does outspeed the Goldengo. And we're doing almost enough to kill. So probably, yeah, U-turn, that'll probably do. This does not do enough with a Mighty Cleave. So we are chilling to Earth Power unless we get crit, which we don't. Very nice. And yeah, a U-turn A U-turn into an earth power will kill, and we outspeed for sure. So we can go into this, and yep, now we can Sludge Bomb, and this I'm pretty confident is going to do over half. So I'm feeling good about the win here. Things got dicey there. Things got very dicey there. And yeah, it's more than enough, so we're going to win here. I was well played by him at the end there. Really almost made that recovery. And we end up breaking 1800s with Mamo. So typically what's going to happen is I would keep testing this team, and then if it gets to the point where I'm at like, 2000 ELO, I say, oh, this team's good. Or if it gets to a point where I keep kind of losing, I ask myself why, and then try to fix the team. And if the team is beyond fixing within the kind of the constraints I built it, at that point I'll rebuild, remake it, and just try a different approach with Mamoswine. Well, that seems like a pretty good spot to wrap up. I know this may not have been, as I said, the unscripted, the reality of it does make it more boring, does make it longer, does make it harder to maybe get into, but I hope the few of you that were really keen to see what it looks like when I'm building, hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, if you did, remember, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.